I really want to get into sugarcane juice rums because in my head I think they are potentially the most authentic type of rum there could be. But up until now, a lot of the examples I've tried have really not grabbed me. They're either too grassy, too floral, or the aroma has simply put them off. However, Madhu, and I think I've got your name right, has sent me this from the Piccadilly distilleries over in India. Could this, Camikara, could this be the rum to convert me? So thank you very much, Madhu. I do apologise if I've got your name right for sending me this through. This has taken quite a while to get here. I first remember this pre-Christmas 2022. We were chatting and it eventually arrived early February. So that's how long it's kind of taken here. I've got a little bit of facts to tell you, but before we dive in, sugarcane juice rums is not something that I really shout about too much because, as I say, I do think they could potentially be one of my favourite styles of rum because in my head, the examples I've kind of tasted do taste to me how I think rum should taste. However, no brand that I've tasted, and this is going to be kind of a little bit hypocritical if you like, no brand I've ever tasted has really nailed it. As I said, they're either too grassy, too floral, or there's that real sort of agricole smell that I don't really like. The best examples I've had for me so far have been Madeira, agricola if you like, some of the Madeira rums. Now, Indian rum. People might be looking at this thinking, India, do they make rum? Well, I'm not sure how the land lies at the moment, but certainly through the 2000s and 2010s, India have been some of the biggest rum producers in the world. Up until a few years ago, I do think one of their rums outsold Bacardi. Now, I've completely lost track of this, but this was McDowell's, and McDowell's is kind of a subsidiary of Diageo. And to my knowledge, as I say, I haven't seen this in the last couple of years, but to my knowledge, they've just fallen off this, but McDowell's completely outsold Bacardi. And I'm not just talking in India or around there, I'm talking worldwide volumes. So that's how big they are. You've also got two other massive Indian rums that are sort of, I think they're kind of globally known. Old Monk certainly is certainly well known in the UK. I wouldn't say it's a big seller, but it is well known. And then we've got the Amrut distilleries. I think that's how you say that, AMIUT. And they produce two rums that I know of, the Old Port and the two Indies. And again, you know, they are big sellers. Now, I don't want to kind of get bracket Philippines into this as well, because the Philippines and India, they are, in the grand scheme of things, not that close. I mean, it's a lot closer together than what the UK is to India, but to go out to that neck of the woods, if you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, rum can't be that big that way. Tanduay, which is a Filipino rum, is the world's biggest selling rum. You know, the volumes they do is just huge. So out that way, Asia, whatever you want to, you know, however you want to classify them, produce a lot of rum and sell a lot of rum. Let me quickly tell you a little bit about Camikara. I think that's how you say it. I've got some notes written down here that Madhu sent me through. After the successful launch of the Indian single malt whiskey Indri, INDRI, they've launched Camikara. It is India's first ever 12-year-old sugar pure cane juice rum. There's no added colours, there's no added sugar or anything like that. It is not chill filtered as well. It is just simply distilled and aged and then bottled after 12 years. Now, the aging of this, maturation if you like, is done in ex-bourbon barrels. So what they call it on the back here. Where's that? I've seen it. It's there. It says oak wood. So ex-bourbon barrels essentially is what it's been aged in. And this is very, in the grand scheme of things, for something like that, very limited release. It's 3,600 bottles worldwide, and Madhu did sort of send me this. There was 1,200 bottles coming to Europe and the UK, 1,200 bottles India and that neck of the woods, and 1,200 bottles to the US. Now, this first came on the radar September, October time 2022. I don't know whether this is one of the first examples to hit Europe or UK, or whether it's been out there and sold out. I certainly can't see it for sale anywhere at the moment, so I think this is one of the first examples that's gone out there. Now, the whole point, obviously, you know, they're not going to get very far with 3,600 bottles. Are they going to reproduce this? They've probably got casks laying down to age, but it's not, you know, there's not going to be a massive high turnover volume of a 12-year-old rum. So what the whole point of this is kind of like the launch and I don't think I've got the name for this yet, but they've got a slightly lesser aged rum that is going to go on general release to the masses. So this is kind of like, this is what we can do. This is our champion bottle, if you like, but we're going to mass produce a slightly less aged version. So this is like the precursor to what they're doing. Now, a couple more facts to kind of give you. Camikara means liquid gold in Sanskrit. And now this is the bit that got me. I'm not sure if I read this right. I mean, I've just cut and paste, but I'm not sure if I'm understanding this right. The total liquid that was filled inside the barrels, we could only retrieve 6% of that liquid back. So I interpret that as 94% angel share, which I don't think can be right, but I'm not quite sure how to interpret that. But the kind of, 94% angel share does kind of, mean liquid gold, as in gold's valuable, there's not much left, that sort of thing. So I'm kind of thinking I am on the right wavelengths, but 94% angel share is quite high. So if anyone can shed any light on that, that'll be awesome. And this distillery is located in the northern plains of India. I've got Punjab, what's it called? Patala, Punjab, so northern plains of India, where the temperature ranges from 50 degrees Celsius in the summer and 0 degrees Celsius in the winter. So that is kind of put off. It definitely ages rum differently. So that is the nuts and bolts of this. I want to emphasize this. This is not molasses. This is sugar cane juice. Now, I was just sort of flicking around today. I have interpreted that right. It's right there in the flipping bottle, but that's me, innit? So this rum was rediscovered and matured for 12 long years. During maturation, the greedy angels have consumed a generous 94% of the liquid, leaving us with just 6% to cherish. We bring you Camikara liquid gold. So yes, I had interpreted that right. 94% angel share. Now, obviously, as this rum isn't out there that much, there are no other tasting notes that I can see to go on to kind of see what other people have got. So you're 100% relying on me this time interpreting this. But the one thing I will say, could I pick this as sugarcane versus molasses? Yes, I could, but not in that whole horrible sugarcane agricole vibe. I want to make that distinction sort of between agricole and sugarcane juice. Agricole to me is very harsh. It's, there's a lot in my Discord community that kind of refer it to baby sick. It has got that unmistakable aroma to it, some agricole, but not all sugarcane juice is the same. There can be two different ways. It's like agricole is the French way of making stuff. Other places are doing sugarcane juice, but it does kind of create that vibe that is very different to molasses. It really is. There's absolutely zero nod in here to like French agricole for me, but it is very distinguishable from a molasses rum. And the aromas for me are dancing all around the place, because the first thing I kind of thought of was honeycomb. I get nods to honey, but a little bit of sort of carameliness to it, so I'm going to honeycomb and that. But I do actually get quite a little bit of orange coming off it. I'd say there's like a minimal bit of vanilla off that, and that'll come from 12 years in ex-bourbon barrels. They're going to give you a touch of vanilla off that. But as far as like floral or grassy or anything like that aromas, not really, no. I mean, to sum up, on the nose, when I smell that, I'm like, wow, this smells delicious. This is something I really want to dive into. Now, getting on to the tasting, there's one vital nugget of information I haven't passed on yet, and that's the ABV. 50% ABV, that is very apparent from drinking that. That's got nice alcohol burn to it. I wouldn't say ethanol, it's just a lovely kind of warming rum. And how I'd compare that, and I'm thinking of someone in particular this, think Matuga Mavuno that I've kind of recently featured, the Scottish rum, where it's the same ABV, it's 50% ABV. I do think that is a lot harsher, a lot more ethanol vibes of rum. This is actually a nice 50% that you can kind of get your head around. But there's also another thing that another bit of education for me actually, because we're so used to UK, US, where proof is double the ABV. So at 50% ABV, we're looking at 100 proof. I've got a funny feeling India might be different because we've got 50% volume ABV, but we've also got 87.5 proof. So yeah, how that differs in India to the US, I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, this is 50% ABV because there's the percent on the back. Whenever we see percent, we always kind of think ABV. So now we've got the alcohol out of the way and let that 50% acclimatise to my palate. It does on the taste. It is very different to molasses rums, and I like it. I do really like it. It doesn't give me the inherent sugarcane or the French style of sugarcane juice that I don't really like, the agricole vibes. It does, there's that orange that does sort of filter through a little bit. It's not caramel that's coming through for me. There's this really distinct flavour that I can't really pick out. It's not honeycomb. The orange is sort of there for me, but there is something else, and I'm struggling to kind of pick it in a moment. And while my little brain's thinking about that, let's talk about the barrel aging. As I say, you've got that lovely 50% burn, if you like. Let's just call that a lovely sort of rummy bite to it. It isn't peppery spice bite as well. You know, it's not overpowered by the barrel. You know, some barrels really do, for me, kill a rum. This is actually, for me, a great example of 12-year-old aging, because I don't lose any of the characteristics of the rum. They're kind of enhanced a little bit, if you like. Whereas I do feel some rums we're conditioned to kind of think, you know, they get better and better as long as they, you know, or they taste better the longer they're aged. And that's purely for me because the younger variants of that rum aren't necessarily as good. So they have to be rounded out a lot longer in certain barrels. For me, I still really get that base rum at the bottom of this, which I really like. So my point is, the aging, I think, potentially enhances this rum quite a lot, as opposed to masking the original kind of 2, 3, 4-year-old rum that perhaps isn't that brilliant on its own. I think this, at a couple of year old, I think would actually taste really good. It's maybe stone fruit on there. It's not an obvious peach or apricot, but it's just something I can't nail down. It's not, I wouldn't put it in the agricole floral sense. I wouldn't put it in the molasses caramel toffee kind of vibe. It's something, I'll be honest, it's something pretty damn unique that I've not really tasted before, but I really like it. It's delicious. Is that a session rum? Is that a rum that I would come back to like over a night and enjoy more and more of? I think the 50% is a strong 50%. Don't get me wrong. I've got some 54.5%, like Navy strength. I've got some 54.5% stuff that is a lot easier to drink, and I dare say slightly sweetened, if you like, to make them easier. I don't think this a session rum that I can enjoy like 3 or 4 of those, because I think the alcohol is really going to hit me from this. But definitely as a rum fashioned or something like that, that's going to be very delicious. Hey, now we're sort of nailing something down. Now that I've said something, potentially, if you made a rum fashioned with orange bitters, that's kind of like the vibe I get from that. Not like Angostura bitters, but orange bitters. I'm sort of settling on the orange. I'm really sorry if no one else gets the orange, but that's kind of where I'm at. The only other thing I could potentially go, as I said, is maybe tropical fruit, maybe sort of pineapple, papaya kind of vibe to it, but not in a Barbados way. It's not a molasses vibe. It's really not a molasses vibe. I really, really like this. Whether the cane heads will like it or not, I generally don't know, because I'm not in their world. But for me, that's predominantly molasses, but does want to get into sugar cane juice that isn't agricole, doesn't have that, I would give this a massive thumbs up. I really, really like this. If when it does go on sale in the UK and Europe, I've got absolutely no ideas, no Scooby-Doo about how much this costs. For all I know, I could be here with like £100 rum. I generally have zero idea. It's just been sent to me with the view that it will get released soon, if not already has done. But yeah, I'm excited for the lesser Because I'd really, if it's this similar sort of, again, I don't know how they've done this. I don't know whether they've got lots of different barrels and this is blended together to make a 12-year-old, or whether they've got this staple rum that has been aged to a certain point, and then which will be the general release, and then the general rum has then been aged up for 12 years to get this. I don't know. There is absolutely zero kind of knowledge about that. But I would love to taste this exact rum, maybe as I don't know what they're doing, like a 5-year-old, a 7, 8-year-old. I don't know, but I'm taken by that. I really am. A permanent restock if it was available. Absolutely permanent restock.